Hello, choking on my coffee, Thirstaholics. Welcome to this special live launch party episode of The Thirsty Professional. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my new book and my first novel, The RIP Files Case of the Demon Drums, and we're going to do a quick update on season 2 of the podcast. So go grab a cuppa. I will be back in a minute.
Welcome to the space where truth is poured. No corporate scripts, just tales explored. From passion quest to purpose found, the thirsty professional breaks new ground. So fill your cup, let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
It is so weird doing this alone. I don't know if I like it or not. Well, welcome everybody to the Thirsty Professional. This is a place where we grab a bevy, ditch the BS, and we get real about careers, purpose, and passion. I'm your host, Beth Campbell, former corporate queen, and now full-time podcaster and author. Today we're going to talk about writing and books because I just released my first novel, a little paranormal mystery called The RIP Files, Case of the Demon Drums. If you are watching live, let me know you're here in the comments, where you're from, and most importantly, what are you drinking? If you're watching the replay, please give me a hashtag replay. And of course, make sure to let me know if you have any questions or feedback so I can address them during the live stream. Quick update on The Thirsty Professional Season 2, which is going to kick off on January 16th with my first guest, Michelle B. Griffin. Awesome. Tons of new guests and some familiar faces, bringing back Heidi Medina, Seamus Corey, Doris Walsh, Heather Black, Bill Wacker, and Tracy Irwin, and more. So I'm still filling up. I'm booked up through mid-May, but if anybody knows someone who might be interested, send them my way. I cannot wait to start back up again. Yeah, it's been a great hiatus and I'm enjoying having the extra time. But got some people coming in here. Heidi Medina, you're not alone. Thank you. We're here. Thank you, Heidi. Yes, as always. As always. I think I just mean it's weird not having someone next to me that I have to pay attention to, and it's just odd. Stephanie Bannock, yay, so excited for you and your new book. Thank you, Stephanie. And Stella, it's like the fan club. Exciting times indeed. Thank you, Stella. Okay. Stephanie is enjoying peach tea with honey. Stephanie, you always have like just interesting drinks. Peach tea with honey sounds really good. Cold but sunny day in upstate New York. Not sunny here. 4 inches of snow and coming down. So Stella's got a latte on the table. There you go. I've got my mocha mix here. Doris Walsh coming in. Hello. Hello to you too. Hopefully you won't pick up the plow. I live in kind of a nicer neighborhood, probably a higher tax bracket. And so there's literally nothing on the roads right now. They've plowed it all, but they just keep coming by. So, Heidi, she gets it. And Mike Goggin, welcome back, Mike. And Mike, congratulations on the new job. So, that's awesome. I'm wishing you the best and very much success, which I know you'll have. All right, I'm going to jump right in here. I'm going to start with what are we going to cover today? I'm going to tell you a little bit about what is Demon Drums about, a little synopsis. How did it come about? A little background about me that led us to here. Some of the content that you should be aware of. And I bring this up because I'm on a lot of book forums and groups out on Facebook, and people are always constantly asking about, does this book include this, or this? And can you recommend a book that it doesn't have this or whatever for their kid or whatever? So I'm going to tell you a few things in case you've got a kid or whatever that you, or sometimes, triggers and stuff like that. I'll let you know where you can get Demon Drums, and I'm going to read some excerpts from Demon Drums. Yes, and perhaps one, maybe two, depending on time, and one maybe with a Southern accent because one of the main characters in here is a Southern gal, and I was sort of challenged to do it with a Southern accent. So, okay, and then of course we'll wrap it up then. So I'm going to start off with what is Case of the Demon Drums about? Well, It is a paranormal mystery that takes the reader on a very realistic ghost hunt from start to finish. Setting is in Roanoke, Virginia, which is a lovely place. I lived there for a number of years with my husband. It's not too far from where I am right now. It's beautiful in the mountains, lots of trails. We begin the story from the client's perspective. So this is the woman who ultimately calls for help with her paranormal, her haunting. And this is a frazzled, very religious woman. She's a mom, and her name is Sue Mackenzie. She also has I will say, rebellious teenage daughter, Josephine, goes by Josie. And they experience some really terrifying and unexplainable events in their home in Roanoke, Virginia. Some of the things that they experience include random drum sounds coming from nowhere, including a very horrific, macabre drum solo, strange smells, whispering voices, cold spots, flickering lights, an invisible force that violently touches both the mom and the daughter, and much, much more. So after several occurrences of these events, the mom finally reaches out to Roanoke Investigations of the Paranormal, which is AKA RIP, where the name, the RIP files comes from, which is led by founders Libby and Walter Bean, sort of loosely and sometimes not so loosely inspired by my husband and I. Libby is sort of the director of getting shit done, and Walter is the supreme skeptic who just thinks everybody's crazy, which maybe they are. Who knows? The book then takes us through the investigation steps, including the call, the interview, the investigation itself, multiple sessions, including a surprise seance. Well, I guess it's not a surprise now, is it? The evidence review and how they find things, the reveal to the client, and what happens then, right? And along the way, we learn a little bit more about Sue and her daughter and what's going on in their life that might be contributing to their experiences in some way, shape, or form. We also get to meet three of the RIP investigation team members. There's Maya Hill Goldberg, who is a young psychology major, and she is moderately skeptic. We have Dana Tennant, who is the team psychic/sensitive. She's also a nurse and a mom to a teenage ghost hunting wannabe named Rafe, aka Junior. Rafe makes a brief appearance in this book, but he will be a bigger presence in the second book of this series. So I'm kind of excited about that. Bringing in a young ghost hunter. And then Stan Kataguchi, who is the founder Libby's stepbrother, and he's kind of the problem child of the group. He's the one that thinks everything's a demon. So that's kind of the summary in a nutshell. It's a very realistic paranormal investigation from start to finish. Let's see. I'm just double checking in. Mike Goggin is coffee all day. Temperatures in 42 in Phoenix. Oh my gosh. 42, which is, okay, I'm trying to calculate. Double it and add 30, subtract 30 and have it. So 6 degrees Celsius in Arizona. I mean, it's cold everywhere. It's cold here too. I thought it was going to be, according to the Farmer's Almanac, it was going to be warmer than normal season this year here in Virginia, but not so far. We've had 2 ice storms, and now we've got 4 inches plus of snow coming down. Eileen Pizzi's calling in, New Jersey. Good morning. No coffee yet. No harm, no foul. Coffee is just something that anytime, any day, coffee and tea, just whenever. Okay. Let's see. How did Demon Drums come about? Why did I decide to write a paranormal mystery? I can tell you it's not something it's not like something that was my whole life. I'm like, yes, I'm going to write ghost stories. Early in my marriage, my husband signed us both up to be team members for an existing paranormal investigation team in our home state. And so we started working with them. Now, this was before, really right at the beginning of when the big explosion happened on TV, when all of at least here in the States, a whole bunch of ghost hunting reality TV shows were just starting to come out. So we were with this group. We kind of cut our teeth with them for 3 years, and it was an amazing experience. It was just great. But they were located on the other side of the state where we lived. And so that's a lot of driving. Ghost hunts and paranormal investigations, you're typically going into the wee hours of the morning. And then when you have a 2 or even 3 hour drive on top of that, We had dogs, and then you have to go to work maybe in a day. And it's just, so we decided after about 3 years that we were going to form our own team a little closer to home. There weren't a lot of presence. There wasn't a lot of ghost hunting presence in our central of the state area. And we had that group, we led that group for about 7 years. So over those years, we worked with various team members. Some of them came and went. We did dozens of cases. We even did a podcast for a short time called the Go Dark Podcast, which is still out there somewhere. And we were really a truth-seeking group. We wanted to find out what is the most likely cause of the things that our clients reported. We were not out to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt your house is haunted, which seemed to be what some of the other groups that we hobnobbed with wanted to do. And certainly the TV people seemed to always be out to prove a haunting. Most of them, some of them not, but a lot of them. We were actually, just a little side note, during that time when we had our group and we had a website and we were quite active, we had probably 4 or 5 producers reaching out to us because now the reality shows were getting bigger and they were looking for their next ghost hunting show. But they were always wanting us to be super over the top and like, do you guys do exorcisms? And we're like, no. And it just wasn't, I couldn't stomach it. I mean, we could have faked it, but maybe we would be rich and famous now, but I just couldn't stomach really. And part of that is because even early on in our paranormal investigation days, when we were with this other group, I started to realize how much of a role psychology and fear played into the events, and certainly into some of the reactions that our clients had to these events. I mean, fear is so powerful. I mean, it's so powerful that it makes people believe that things are paranormal, that a normal person not in fear would say, that's not paranormal. It's your bulb's broken, or that's why your lights are flashing, that kind of stuff. When we stopped ghost hunting, it was almost a decade, and this was mainly because we moved. And also, like I said earlier, it's hard to stay out almost every weekend until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then you have to get up. And if you have a lab, the labs does not wait for her walk or her food. So it became a little difficult. And so when we stopped, there were 3 cases in those 10 years that really stuck out for me, where this fear was the star player of these events. And those were the ones I really, kind of clung to and really thought about a lot. And one of those cases inspired Demon Drums. So this is inspired by a real case that my husband and I worked. Probably of the 3 that I'm going to write, I will say this one is there's the most detail or inspired detail in this one from the actual case that we did. So initially, back then, when I was recognizing this psychological element to hauntings, like almost every case was just somebody in fear and really just couldn't see clearly what was really going on. I thought that, maybe it would be a great idea to write a nonfiction book about the psychology of hauntings, because nobody ever talked about it. All the TV shows were just about the hype and exorcisms, and we're going to find a ghost, and oh my God, what was that? Nobody was really talking about the reality. And the reality for us is that that's not what investigations were. It was about real people, real families who were in great, great fear. And being over the top hype was really not helping the situation. So that idea of doing a nonfiction book morphed into making a fiction series of novels about these 3 cases that kind of weighed on my mind. And initially I was going to do that with my husband, and he even wrote up a few of the early pages of the chapter 1 from Demon Drums. But we had jobs, and so that kind of dragged along. And then I got laid off from my job in September 2023. Thank you, universe. So I had the time and the passion to pursue this idea. So I drafted Demon Drums during 2023's National Novel Writing Month, so November 2023, and spent the next year finishing it. And here we are, 2 years later, and it's out. So that's kind of the train of thought and the background of how the Case of the Demon Drums idea came about. So, all right, I'm going to go check in and see what's going on. Heather Black, Heather, you're going to be my litmus test here, because I'm going to read an excerpt shortly in a Southern accent. And so You might have been the one who challenged me to do this. I don't remember who challenged me, but so, and you are a Southern woman, so you will be able to keep me keep it real. I know it's not going to be legit, maybe to the area of the West Virginia area, but at least if it sounds Southern, I'm going to do my best. You know what? We're at that age where we just don't give an F anymore, and we just do what we love. Stella is acknowledging Heather Black. Heather is got coffee brewing now, and she finished the book last night. So good. Thank you, Heather. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of book is Case of the Demon Drums. And like I said, I have a lot of people, I see a lot of people in book forums asking these questions. They want to know some of the things that a book might include. There might be trigger events that you might get triggered by, maybe inappropriate stuff for their kids, depending on how they're raising their kids. So here are some things that you should know in the context of genre, content, what if my kid wants to read it, etc. So, oh, it was you, Heidi. Well, thank you. Heidi is the one who yes, thank you. I am going to go for it. I'm going to go for the Southern accents. Thanks, Heidi, for, I couldn't remember who it was. All right. So the Case of the Demon Drums, the genre is mainly paranormal mystery. So it has women sleuths, so that's a category, amateur sleuths, and of course, elements of the spiritual and psychic world. It is not super scary at all. Believe me, I cannot even watch an episode of like Stranger Things by myself at night without my husband, right? That's how much of a scaredy cat I am. So this is not Stephen King scary. This is not something where you're going to get like the heebie-jeebies. There's scary parts to it, but they're not bad. It's really more like Scooby-Doo than Stephen King. There's humor, and some of it's, dark. We talk about a little bit about religion, and we have some sarcastic people on the team, and, talking about ghosts and stuff. So, and sometimes there's a little self-deprecation. So you guys know me, if most of you know me, I think. I can't write something without humor. So there's humor, there's snark, there's sarcasm, that kind of thing. This book is written mostly from the point of view of various investigation team members, but also the client, Sue. So again, we're going to get different perspectives on things like religion and that kind of, and ghosts from different people. As in life, I write authentically, which means I don't hold back just because it might make someone uncomfortable. Discomfort is the herald of opportunity. So you are going to see on the back of the paperback book, right here, I have just a little tiny LGBTQIA plus flag. The book is not specifically or directly LGBTQIA centric. It's not a LGBTQIA category. However, number one, I'm an ally, and I wanted to make that clear that there is content in here, and I am an ally. So I wanted that to be out there. And the book does contain some discussion and interaction about somebody's exploration of either their sexual or gender identity, and it does play into the story. There's nothing overt, nothing graphic. No, we're not having gay sex here, which would be, there's nothing wrong with that. But, maybe if your 14-year-old wants to read it, there's nothing like that in here. It's mostly just discussion about physical appearance and mindset, that kind of thing. Frankly, I think if anybody out there is uncomfortable, if I can just get on a pedestal for a second, if anybody out there is uncomfortable with LGBTQIA, you're curious and you're uncomfortable, but you're not like, I want you to not, be allowed to live or whatever. This would be a great introduction for you because it explores the dynamic between a parent who has very strong religious influence and a teenager who is just trying to find herself. So it's about as high level as it can get, but just be aware that it is there. So if you're MAGA, you're probably not going to read this book, but there is swearing in this book. I know, shocking. What, Beth? You swearing? So if you're somebody who doesn't tolerate four-letter words, this is not going to be for you. But again, as with the LGBTQIA plus stuff, it's not excessive. It's nothing that you wouldn't see in a movie or TV show or other books, but just know it's there. I do drop some F-bombs in here. So there's no blatant sexual content at all. There are a few high-level mentions of suicide and self-harm. Again, nothing graphic, but sometimes those are triggers, so just be aware. There is reference to a woman's monthly cycle a few times. And I don't think this is particularly shocking, as most of us women have dealt with this for, 30, 40 years. But if that makes you uncomfortable, just know it's there, but it's brief. So there's a lot of religious content, mainly Christian, and that's because, the main character is a very religious woman. She has a very religious friend, and so that does come into play quite a bit. The book does have multiple points of view. So we have the perspective from this mother who's very devout, but we also have several investigation team members who are either not Christian or not religious at all. They're skeptics. So there is a little bit of religious, like, is she over the top kind of a thing. Nothing that I think is offensive, but just know if that's something that you shy away from, or if somebody is asking. On the non-controversial side, dog lovers, there are not one, not two, but 3 dogs making appearances in this book. There is a Labrador Retriever, makes a brief appearance. That is the dog owned by the investigation team owners, Libby and Walter. Labrador Retriever named Fenrir, for you Scandinavian folks, shortened to Fenny most of the time. And that I named this dog Fenrir because my husband wanted to name our current dog Fenrir, and I had unlimited veto on the names, and so I said no, but I conceded to him for this one, so I named her Fenrir. There is also a Yorkie mix owned by the owner, the owner of the house that is allegedly haunted, who makes quite a few appearances and is a kind of a little instrumental part of the story. And then also a rat-fanged varmint Chihuahua, aren't they all? Sorry if you're a Chihuahua owner. They're just creepy little yippy dogs. And his name is Tinker, with his little shark teeth. So yes, lots of dog appearances. And as with real paranormal investigations, I say this from 10 years of experience, there's always interpretation of the final conclusion. This is no exception. We give a good solid case one way or the other, a particular likelihood, but there's always the possibility that the team is wrong. So there is a little interpretation here. So those are just some things that to be aware of about the book, especially if someone's asking for a recommendation, or maybe you have a kid and you just want to make sure that it's appropriate. Appropriate is so subjective. Again, a little tangent here, because when I was reading Flowers in the Attic, if you were familiar with this book, which is basically incest and just really sexual stuff, and but it's a number of series by V.C. Andrews. I was reading that when I was probably 9, but I know it's a different world these days. So when your parents aren't looking and you just go up to their big bookshelf and you're just finding stuff that your mom's reading, well, you get a little Jacqueline Suzanne and a little Flowers in the Attic in there. All right. I'm going back to the comments real quick. Heidi says, I read it at night and it didn't get me. Good. Thank you. I appreciate that, Heidi, because it is. I've had a lot of people ask me, is it really scary? Is it super? And it's like, it's not. No. Mike Goggins says, I love the book. Hard to put down. I'm not usually a fiction reader, but I love it. I love the story and the way it's written. Thank you, Mike. Heidi says, what wouldn't be Beth without an F-bomb? Exactly. Right? Fuck. I'm probably going to drop an F-bomb in my excerpts. Doris says it's on order. Looking forward to reading it. Thank you so much, Doris. Stella says, love it. It's interesting to see what a U.S. audience finds offensive and what you have to announce. Yeah, I mean, good point, Stella. It's interesting both in, as I just alluded to, the just nowadays. And I say this because, like I said, I'm in a lot of these book groups, and it's shocking how many usually moms are coming out there saying, I'm really looking for something for my 6-year-old that has no sex, no swearing. And I'm like, oh my God, 16? I mean, yes, you're still a child, and I'm not saying you're not, but man, I just think of the stuff that I read when I was 9, 10 years old. And I think, okay, but yes, we are in a world in the United States right now. So there are, you might have a MAGA friend and they say, oh, I really like ghost stories. And you'd be like, this one might not be for you. So that kind of thing. All righty. Where can I get Demon Drums? So right now it is in paperback and ebook on Amazon. And I know some people don't like Amazon and people are boycotting Amazon, and I get it. I totally do. Right now, for broke self-publishing authors, that is the place to go. It will soon be uploaded to multiple online sites where you can buy the ebook or the paperback. And those will include Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, Hudson Books, Thrift Books, Biblio, Walmart, bookshop.org. and a lot more. Those get distributed through this site called Ingram Spark, and they have like just thousands and thousands of places that they send this to. It takes them a little bit. The ebook is out there in some of the sites, but the paperback takes a bit, and probably because it's holiday time too, they're even a little bit further behind. So I'm expecting the paperback to be available probably February or March. I know it just sounds crazy, but that's when they're telling me. So I will keep you guys apprised if you're anti-Amazon or excuse me, what are the options for you? I do have a list of online stores that my books either are or will soon be available on. It's at bethannecampbell.com/bookstores, all one word, and with an E. I'll put that link up in just a little bit. So just know they'll be there, but it may take weeks or even months. I just have no control when those get distributed. I do have available signed copies if you're interested. At bethannecampbell.com/signed-books, or just go to bethannecampbell.com and look in the books menu. You'll see it there. Shipping is free for the continental US, but outside of the continental US, let me know. I can provide a shipping cost. If you're outside of the US, I'm happy to send you one, but it is hideous, absolutely hideous, what the cost is. And I would unfortunately have to pass part of that at least along to you, because of tariffs and other things. So just wait for the tour, and I'll come with books, and if you have one, I'll sign it when I'm on the European tour. For all of this stuff, you can go to bethannecampbell.com, look under the books menu. Soon to be in bookstores locally, here in my central Virginia, but also Roanoke, where this takes place. It doesn't generate a whole lot of sales unless you're like a super big name and you get globally distributed to like Barnes and Noble, but it's a bucket list of mine. I didn't do that with my first book. So, and when I helped my uncle write his book, The Broken Spoke, he went to stores in Seattle, and he's now in 7 stores. So it's just kind of a bucket list thing to be in a store. So I will have some that will be, if you're local, it will be in there. Okay. Stella says, geez, they apparently have no idea what your 16-year-old is doing online. I know. Well, I get it. I don't want to, parents do, you do have to think about what your kids are reading, and some do more than others. I was an avid reader starting back in the mid 70s, and my parents were both avid readers, and they had a probably 20-foot floor to ceiling, 8-foot ceiling bookshelf full of adult reading. I mean, not like, smut or anything, but just, adult books that are written for adults. And, when you don't have the internet, that's what you read. So it is just interesting to me that there is a different dynamic. But some of you folks who are parents, that sometimes you just want to make sure that there's not something that's grossly inappropriate or inappropriate for how you're raising your kids. So it's, my philosophy, if I had kids, my kids would just be reading whatever they wanted to read, like I did, but I don't have kids. So it's easy for me to say. Okay, I need to take a drink here because I'm gonna start reading in a second. We're not at the half an hour, so I've got probably maybe 6 minutes of reading here. So just so you folks are, if you're anticipating the moment when Beth goes into her Southern accent, we're getting close to that time. All right, so I've got 2 excerpts from the book that I'm going to read. The first one is from chapter 1. It's kicking off the book. This is the very first few paragraphs of the book. Chapter 1, Demons, Drums, and Dysfunction. This is told in third person, and it really is. This is the second major horrifying, terrifying event that Sue and her daughter experience. We do a flashback to the first one later in the book, but the book kicks off with the second event, which prompts them to contact the investigation team. So this is the very start of the book, and I'm going to give you a little reading right now, and it'll look like I'm looking down, but because for some reason I can just read my little excerpt a little bit better when it's down. So, okay, here you go. Chapter 1, Demons, Drums, and Dysfunction. Just a little snippet. Rat-a-tat-tat. Sue Mackenzie hears the soft tapping of the snare first, like a faraway Johnny-come-marching-home drummer at the end of a bloody Civil War battle. It reminds her of a movie she saw back in the 80s, or maybe it was a miniseries. She doesn't remember. Her mind is fuzzy and distant. What time is it? How did I get here? She's standing in front of the kitchen window, her hands immersed in a sink full of warm, soapy water. There's a broken coffee mug shattered at her feet. Sue vaguely remembers dreaming that the cup flew out of the bubbles by itself and smashed onto the floor. As it hit the old linoleum, it sounded like a cymbal crashing. Or did she hear an actual cymbal? A lot of crazy things have been happening over the past few weeks, ever since the party. The sound of snares, cymbals, and bass drums coming from nowhere, random objects flying through the air, something foul stroking her hair, voices whisper on the stair, hands on my neck, an icy pear. Edgar Allan Poe would be proud. Rat-a-tat-tat. Sue cocks her ear toward the basement door. Did I imagine it this time? Am I still dreaming? The tapping is faint and so very far away. She strains to hear it, holding her breath. Clumps of stringy hair cling to her collarbone with a sticky sweat that drips down the front of her t-shirt, leaving salty streaks across the giant screen-printed letters. Isaiah 35:4, be strong, do not fear, your God will come. She pulls her hands from the water and dries them on a dish towel hanging on the junk drawer knob to her right. The towel is filthy. She should have changed it out for a clean one last week, but Sue Mackenzie's got bigger fish to fry right now. She walks around the island that separates her small kitchen from the living room. The speckled laminate was once the pride of a 70s housewife, but now sits dingy and worn, with a fringe of crackle along its edge. Sue stops at the corner of the bar and sends out a shallow prayer that emerges only as a sigh. Be with me, Lord. I can't do this again. Another faint rat-a-tat-tat, another skipped heartbeat, and then the drums fade away. For now. But they will be back, just like last time. The drums come first, and then the demons. Sue tries to inhale deeper, but can't. She's going into a panic again. They're coming. There you go. There you go. Little snippet from chapter 1. Just setting off. That's about as scary as it gets, folks. I mean, really. Hey, Bill Wacker, joining us here. He needs to enjoy this and need to run early, but you rock. Thank you. Thanks. Bill's going to be joining us again on the Thirsty Professional in 2026. I can't even remember the year. Okay, here we go. Second and final excerpt. I wanted to include a little bit of, this is actually one of my favorite scenes in the book because there's a little humor into it, but which I always love, but you're getting a little bit into the head of Sue Mackenzie, who's being haunted. So just a little setup for this scene. In this excerpt, the client, Sue Mackenzie, who's the mother to the teenager, she's hosting a birthday party for her grandson, who's just turned a year old. And before the guests arrive, she and her daughter experience, this is the first event that they've experienced, some very terrifying events, leaving them quite shattered and rattled. But they have this party and the guests start showing up. So they have to kind of, work through it. And then it's still a little chaotic, but, they're still a little bit rattled. But then they start hearing this stomping coming from the basement. So they share a basement. This is a duplex. So if you don't know what a duplex is, it's kind of like apartments next, like usually two. It's a house, but it's split up into two dwellings. The other side is inhabited by an older woman called Alice Winchester. And they have a shared basement. So they both have a stairway down into the shared basement area. And as the stomping continues during the party, Sue goes to the basement to figure out what's going on. It sounds like somebody's stomping up and down her stairs. And it's disruptive. So she wants to find out what it is. She thinks it's her neighbor's grandson. So Alice has a grandson named Caleb, and he's friends with one of the neighbor kids. And she thinks maybe it's them. They're responsible for this ruckus, maybe even responsible for these terrifying events that she and her daughter experienced a few hours earlier. So she goes to the basement. She's looking around. She can't find him or the source of the stomping. So we pick up after she has looked in pretty much every corner, and she now believes that this little hooligan grandson has escaped back up the other stairwell to his grandmother Alice's residence. So that's where we're picking up. And yes, I'm going to do this in a Southern accent. Folks, there are a lot of Southern accents in the US, and this might not at all be correct or even. This might be like the Kevin Costner in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, trying to do a British accent, but you know what? We're going to go for it. All right, we're picking up Sue Mackenzie in her basement, frustrated. What is going on? I am beyond red at this point. I walk around flicking on all the lights, still holding up the end of the broom. Nothing. My face gets even hotter, and I can feel it turning red as a fire poker. What is happening? I close my eyes and drop my arm, letting the broom handle hit the cement floor. I rub the bridge of my nose, trying to ease the growing tension in my head. If no one else had heard the stomping, I might think I'm losing my ever-loving mind. After a moment, I hear someone upstairs mumble, "Should one of us go down there?" And I decide to end this once and for all. I walk through the dim cellar to Alice's stairs and stomp up as hard as I can until I reach the top. If I'm making half the noise that those thugs made a few minutes ago, I'll die smiling. I am seething, and I pray I'm interrupting Alice's day as badly as her damn grandson has interrupted mine. Boom, 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 boom. I pound on Alice's door with full force. And again, boom, 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 boom. "Alice, open the door, it's Sue." I pound a third time, not caring that Alice is older and doesn't get around as well as me, a generation younger. Finally, I hear her telltale creak and sense her gnarled, arthritic hand on the doorknob. The lock turns and the door opens to reveal octogenarian Alice Winchester, borrower of sugar which she never did pay back, and grandmother to heathens. It's mid-afternoon, but Alice is still wearing her bathrobe, a pale pink chenille gem perfectly appropriate for someone her age. I'm pretty sure my grandma wore the same style 30 years ago. Alice looks groggy as though she just woke up, which would not be surprising since she is prone to napping after nipping, as they say. "Alice," I say with clenched teeth. I'm standing on the top step, my chin level with the top of Alice's hair, which is a lovely shade of church lady powder blue. "I have just had about enough of your grandson's pissing around down here. Now he's gone too far." I pause and purse my lips together, trying to control my anger. "I would like to have a word with him, please. I know he's inside. Please ask him to come to the door." I'm not sure yet if I'm going to get old school physical with the little shit or just rip him a new one with my mouth, but either way, he's going to get a piece of Sue Mackenzie. Alice looks confused, but then Alice always looks confused. "Do you mean Caleb?" "Yes, Caleb. For fuck's sake, he's the only grandson she has." "Caleb isn't here, Sue. He's gone to visit his dad in Richmond this weekend." She slurs a bit. I shake my head in doubt. "Now, Alice, I damn well heard him not 1 minute ago running up and down my stairs. Don't lie to me. I know he's in there." Alice stares at me with an almost curious look. She pauses for a few seconds, and I want to slap her hard. Finally, she replies, "Sue, you are fucking losing it." Well, that was unexpected. "Come on in if you don't believe me. Take a look for yourself." She moves aside to let me pass. I don't enter. I'm trying to process. "Now listen here, Alice. You tell that little is not here. I'm not telling him anything." She is surprisingly coherent and oddly direct. I didn't realize Alice was such a badass, and for a split second I'm humbled with respect. But I don't know if I believe her. Maybe she had one too many afternoon cocktails and rat-a-tat-tat. I turn and look down the stairs. The sound is coming from behind me. There you go. End scene. So, all right, Heather, how did I do? If you're still there, how's the accent? Did I completely crucify it? Hopefully, didn't do too badly there. I'm telling you, there are nuances to the Southern accent, and I probably sounded more like I was from Georgia than anything else. But anyway, I just wanted to include a little bit of the humor from the book. Let's see. William Wacker, proud of you. Enjoyed this. Need to run early. And Dora says, "Ooh, suspense from the get-go. I love it." Yes. You got to kick it off with a little bit of scary, spooky. All right. Well, folks, that's pretty much it. I so appreciate your joining me here for this live book launch party. I was kind of, been so busy, and I was like, I got to do something. And I thought, why not use the Thirsty Professional? Thank you, Stella, for the clap, clap, clap. But I appreciate you're all coming. I'm so excited about getting back to this podcast in 2026. Got a few more weeks, well, really another month, getting through the holidays. Stephanie says, loved it. You added to the reading Beth style. Thank you. And Heather says I did well. Heather's my Southern Belle here. So all right, I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Alabama. Okay. Well, I never do say exactly where Sue is from. She lives in Virginia, but you'd be surprised, maybe some of you US folks in Virginia. My husband and I comment about this all the time. We meet people who have very Midwestern, Chicago, Northern accents. And then we encounter people that you can almost not understand them because their accents are so thick. And whenever we ask them, they're all, yeah, I grew up here. This is where I grew up. And it's a weird melting pot. But before I wrap up, if you had any wins today with this episode, let me know. This is something I'm going to be doing. Maybe it's a little bit weird here, but I'm going to do this with some of the podcasts, the Thirsty Professional podcasts. I was in a great panel yesterday with Miss Heidi Medina, and somebody talked about the win-win, what's the win for me, what's the win for my guest, and what's the win for the audience. And so I don't have a guest today. So the win for me is I get to see some awesome faces, share some of my excitement with you. And I know you guys have all been so supportive. So if there's any win for you, let me know in the comments if there's anything that stood out. If you know anybody who might enjoy the paranormal or a modern mystery with a paranormal twist, please recommend. If you've read this book for yourself, please consider a review on Amazon, even if if you hate them, because it really, really does help. Amazon doesn't even really pay you any attention until you get so many reviews. So honest review. I'm not telling you to, hype it up if you hated it, but it really does help and it's much appreciated. Don't forget, The Thirsty Professional is kicking back up in just over a month. January 16th, starting with Michelle B. Griffin, and then Miss Heidi Medina will be coming in for an encore appearance. Hope to see all of you then. I don't think I even introduced, oh my God, how did I forget this? You may notice that I've got a different hat on today. This is not Miss Hattie Arbuckle. This is Miss Georgina Featherstone. Yes, because she's got feathers and stuff. So yes, this is my third one. I have 3 hats, and I just got this one. I wanted a different color, and so here's Miss Georgina Featherstone. So I hope to see you all in January, if not before. Let me real quick check the congratulations, Beth. You're awesome. Looking forward to the Thirsty Professional 2026 from Doris. Thank you. Win from Stephanie, getting to see you and share your energy, extra warmth on this chilly day. Love you, Beth. Stella, great to see you again in the Thirsty Professional. Looking forward to next season. Thank you so much. All right, now Miss Georgina Featherstone and I are going to bid you a fond farewell, happy holidays, and a most splendid new year. Take it easy.
Fill your cup, let's have a chat about careers, life, and all of that.
Well, that was fun. All right, time to go make some bacon.